You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Is Syracuse football in a good spot for the 2025 season, or are they in a bad spot for the 2025 season? How about this? I don't think they're in a bad spot looking ahead to 2025. I also don't necessarily think they're in a good spot either. So you might be thinking, well, Jackson, do you just fall in the middle? No. I think they're in a very weird spot. This is my thought on Syracuse football right now. They are one of the toughest teams in the ACC, if not the country, to project. Because there's a lot of optimism, including from myself, about this coaching staff. A lot of optimism after a tremendous first season. However, we talked about this in the last segment. They lost a lot of talent. They lost a lot of key players from a year ago. So did they really do a good job in replacing them? I guess we'll find out, right? But at least on paper right now, looking at the roster compared to last year, what I will say is I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's definitely not as proven from a year ago. A year ago, you had some breakouts. Jackson Meeks was the big one that broke out. But LaQuinn Allen, you knew, was a proven guy. You knew that Oronde Gadsden was a proven guy. And you also knew that Kyle McCord was a proven guy. You knew that Kyle McCord was most likely going to have a good year. Now, obviously, a lot of people around the country may have underestimated him from his time at Ohio State. But if you had been following along Locked On Syracuse, I think you would have had fair expectations for Kyle McCord. And he actually ended up exceeding those expectations. But roster-wise, the team that went 9-3 a year ago looks unrecognizable. They are a completely different team. It's just the coaching staff remains largely the same. And then you got to get into the schedule as well. And that's another big reason why it is so difficult to gauge Syracuse for 2025. And I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up the schedule here. It's the elephant in the room. We have to talk about it. It just has to be brought up because, like it or not, these are the games that are on Syracuse's schedule. They're going to play these teams. Week 1 neutral site, you're playing Tennessee. You also got to go to Clemson. You got to go to SMU. You got to go to Miami. You got to go at Georgia Tech, at Notre Dame. Now, I have given this comparison for Syracuse football before, but I think it's been a while since I have mentioned it. And to be honest with you all, we've actually grown tremendously since I believe the last time I've mentioned this. So thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you to all those who continue to subscribe. I get this weird feeling that Syracuse football could be kind of like Georgia Tech from a year ago. Now, if you recall Georgia Tech in 2024, they went 7-5. But I don't believe they were a 7-5 team. I believe they were more 8-4, 9-3 on paper. But they went 7-5 in large part because of the schedule. They had to play at Syracuse. They played at Louisville. They played Notre Dame. They played Miami at home, which they actually won that game. And they also went to Georgia, and they lost that game in 8 overtimes. That game just would not end. But they still lost. And so that was one of the main reasons why Georgia Tech, which was a really good team, didn't really have much of a chance to compete for an ACC championship because the schedule makers, the schedule gods out there just gave them a brutal one. They gave them a brutal one. And so if Syracuse, think of it this way, if they go 7-5 next year, that means they won at least one of these games that I mentioned earlier, which is at Notre Dame, at Georgia Tech, at Miami, at SMU, at Clemson, Tennessee neutral site, because that's 6 games right there. So if you go 7-5, you beat one of those teams. So the main takeaway is that it is just so difficult to get a read on this team. It really is. Last year, I felt good about my prediction. I said, hey, best case scenario regular season, they'll go 10-2. Worst case, 6-6. So I split the difference and I said 8-4. They end up going 9-3. So they did even better than I thought. This year, I legitimately don't know. I mean, I could see them going 9-3 again. I could. I can be optimistic. I can sell you on 9-3 right now. I could sit here and try to tell you that, hey, Steve Angeli was good at Notre Dame. He just could never get an opportunity. He's going to be really good in Jeff Nixon's offense. Johntay Cook is going to break out. So they're once again going to be one of the elite offenses in college football. And they're just going to be scoring 40 points a game. And it's going to be very difficult for even some of the top teams to beat a team like Syracuse football. They're going 9-3 once again. Then there's the flip side to it, which is that, hey, what if they don't get good quarterback play this year? Because Kyle McCord is not throwing footballs for Syracuse. He's not walking through that door again. And the schedule just becomes overwhelming. Well, then what? It's on the table that they don't make a bowl. There's a reason why our friends over at FanDuel have Syracuse's over-under at 5.5 wins. I actually think it's more of a sign of respect because think about it this way. I've said this before too. If Dino Babers was the head coach of Syracuse football right now, he was the prior coach before Fran Brown, there's no way that they would have an over-under of 5.5. Looking at this schedule, it would be like 3.5 or 4.5 maybe. But they're getting a decent amount of respect. You're actually seeing people put Syracuse in early top 25s too. I posted it on Twitter at @LO_Syracuse that it was very interesting seeing Syracuse as a top 25 team in the nation. And Tennessee wasn't even on the list. How about that? So I guess there's a reason why the games are played, and we are over 100 days into the college football season. So we'll see. We'll find out. But what do you think? Are they in a good spot, bad spot, weird spot? Can you predict them? Can you not predict them? I want to hear your thoughts, your outlook of Syracuse football this upcoming season in the comments section below. Again, my takeaway is this. I can't get a read. I can't really get a gauge on this team. We're really going to find out, I think, week 1 against Tennessee.